Anyone up for a Pleco museum? Okay, you got to admit, that's a pretty fantastic question to stumble across. It's quirky, right? But that's exactly the random, brilliant thought that hit internet blogger Aang, the mind behind the blog Notes-on-Fishkeeping. And honestly, when you hear a question like that out of nowhere, you just kind of have to stop and think, wait, what brought that on?
Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into a really fascinating micro-obsession from a super specific corner of the internet. We're looking at a dispatch from the world of aquatic hobbyists, specifically Aang's entry, Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 257. We're going to unpack this whole vision for a living Pleco museum and see how just a completely normal, everyday trip to a local fish store suddenly sparked this grand, almost wildly imaginative idea.
So, Part 1, the season of Pleco, a rainy season influx. Now, according to the Post, this whole thing kicks off during the rainy season. And apparently, the rainy season also happens to coincide with what Anne calls the season of Pleco, which is just a brilliant way to describe this sudden, massive shift in the local fish scene. Just picture it. You walk into your local fish store, and boom, they are literally flooded with these fish. We aren't talking about just, one or two sad tanks shoved in the back corner. We're talking about an absolute, overwhelming abundance of different Pleco varieties everywhere you turn. But here's what's really fun about this. It's the author's own internal conflict. Right off the bat, Aang is super clear about their personal stance. They are, quote, not a huge fan of Plecos. But the sheer volume and the crazy diversity of these fish totally forced this reaction of undeniable awe. Aang actually admits that despite not even really liking them, it's still quite a sight to behold. You know that feeling, right? That classic human experience where you have zero desire to actually participate in a hobby yourself, but you are still completely stopped in your tracks by the sheer scale of it all?
Moving on to Part 2, L numbers and price tags, the barriers to entry.
First up, you've got the financial shock. As Aang finds out pretty fast, these aren't cheap goldfish. These guys carry some seriously hefty price tags, starting at well over 100 Malaysian ringgit. And if you're just a casual observer, not already deep into the fish-keeping world, seeing price tags like that on a bottom-feeding fish, that is a massive barrier to entry. It instantly tells you, oh, wow, okay, this is a serious, high-stakes hobby.
But hey, it's not just the cost that'll make your head spin, it's the actual taxonomy. Enter the L numbers. Aang writes that they literally cannot even begin to identify them all by their L numbers. See, because there is this endless, practically infinite variety of unique Plecos out there, regular old names just didn't cut it anymore. Hobbyists had to create this deeply intimidating, hyper-scientific serious system just to keep track of them all. To an outsider looking in, it feels way less like browsing a pet store and a lot more like you need an advanced math degree just to buy a single fish.
Which brings us to Part 3, the living museum vision, a really brilliant pivot.
Just standing there staring at all these tanks, Aang asks a genuinely fascinating question. Do some hardcore hobbyists actually manage to collect the entire series? Just think about that for a second. Think about the crazy amount of dedication, the literal physical tank space, and the massive financial investment that would take. It completely transforms the Pleco from, just a regular aquarium pet into this living collectible. It's like collecting rare stamps or vintage coins, but infinitely more complicated because, well, these ones require constant care, specialized feeding, and totally precise aquatic environments.
And that exact wandering thought process leads directly to the ultimate solution. Someone should honestly set up a fish museum dedicated to all these unique Pleco varieties. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If the average person absolutely cannot afford them, and even the most die-hard hobbyists would struggle to collect the entire L number series in their living room, then the only logical way for us to truly appreciate all this overwhelming diversity is to institutionalize it, a living museum. It is just such a wonderful, incredibly imaginative leap to make from a totally mundane trip to the local store.
So Aang wraps up the dispatch with this super simple but really spot-on statement. It would definitely be a place worth visiting. And honestly, after walking through all that logic, it is really hard to disagree. A place where you could just walk in and marvel at the endless L number variations, appreciating all those unique patterns and weird forms, and you get to do it without dropping hundreds of ringgit or stressing over a complex aquatic ecosystem yourself. That sounds like a genuinely perfect afternoon outing to me.
And that leaves us with a really thought-provoking question to take away today. We've just explored the hidden depths of the Pleco fish-keeping world through this one highly specific observation. But what other hidden, everyday micro-obsessions around us secretly deserve their own museum? Seriously, what other incredibly deep, complex subcultures are just hiding right there in plain sight in our local specialty stores, just waiting for someone to stop, look a little closer, and appreciate the sheer variety of it all? So keep your eyes open the next time you're out and about. You might just spot the next great museum waiting to happen.